Hello everybody, how you doing? This is KIN114. This is a basic introduction to the ABC drills of sprint technique. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, you can go ahead and try Googling ABC sprint drills or go to YouTube and go ABC sprint drills, and there'll be just a ton of people trying to tell you how to do these drills. And I can tell you I've used these drills for a number of years. I learned them years ago from a gentleman who was a speed agility coach at Arizona, and he learned from some pretty heady people, and I'll share that conversation maybe in class. But yeah, this guy was pretty sharp dude. But he really kind of narrowed down some of the drills that are applicable to sport. And this is kind of a variation of that, and things that I have found that have worked over the years, and things that work with my coaching style and how I actually talk through coaching points. Not exhaustive of sprint drills, but this is an introduction. Keep in mind, this is a 114 course, and remember the context. And we use sprint drills for a number of reasons. We use them to teach technique, generalized warm-up, etc. But it's part of a much bigger picture, as you'll see. And I'm going to go ahead and let this play out here. If you look at these, you have a recreational runner over here to the left, and you have a elite level sprinter to the right. Pay attention to the mechanics. Running very flat-footed, hinged at the hips. Look how low the heels are compared to the butt. Now let's look at our elite level sprinter over here. Look at the contact patch on the ground. It's a full foot. I'm going to go ahead and fast forward this here. We're taking off and sprinting here. Very dramatic music. Right around here is where it kicks in. So I'll pause it here, and you can see you have a number of different body positions as they're in their cycle of running. Ground force, they're talking about arch forward position. Heel is high up to the butt. High knee position. There's a flight phase back here. Both feet are off the ground. So when you look at these two and you start to really put it together, you start to understand why sprinters' flats, and they're called flats for a reason, there is no heel to them. They only contact the ground with the ball of the foot, really arch forward. And you'll hear me say this 1,000 times in class, arch forward. And as I'll talk about in another video regarding power, force production, force application, and force reaction from the ground, there's a number of different things that go into this process that allows you to be a better sprinter, mechanically be able to, first of all, strength-wise, be able to create more power in your muscles, mechanically apply that power efficiently into the ground, and then be able to get as much out of the ground as possible so you can sprint faster, accelerate in any number of different vectors, or explode. So again, realize if you're somebody who's a recreational runner like this, and you're thinking you're doing some great stuff to be an athlete, we got to bring you over here, man. This is where you got to be. So let's go ahead and move on to the next vid. Yep. So with that, and I hit on a little bit earlier, with the drills, we're trying to introduce movement patterns. As we go through the drills, you start off very basic, and then you start to increase the power requirements for each drill. And what ends up happening is, as you're increasing the power requirements, there's also some ground reactive forces that are involved, and your body has to adapt to those ground reactive forces. To have you go out and try to do these sprint drills at a high level and all the top end drills, day one, workout one, would just be nonsense. So we have to incrementally ease you into this process so we have your body adapt to that stressor that's placed on it. And you'll hear more about that in general adaptation syndrome. So the idea is teaching the body how to be in the best position to create greater potential energy. And I use the example of shooting a rubber band at your buddy in study hall, and there's another video, I'll talk about this in a little bit. But when you pull that rubber band back, it's potential energy. Pew, as soon as you let it go, it's kinetic energy. When you do athletic movement or just movement in general, there's a series or cycle of potential to connect that happens over and over and over again, where you're storing all this potential energy in the muscles and you're trying to release it at the appropriate time. So these drills teach that timing component, but what we do is as we progress through these drills and they become more power oriented, you also have the learning curve where your body's learning how to apply that power in greater amounts in the most optimal timing component. So it's not just, hey, you're super powerful, or hey, you have great timing. but you have to be able to apply force in the most optimal time. So we'll talk more about that. Sagittal plane, that's that straight ahead kind of locomotive movement pattern. And you'll hear me say that 1,000 times in class. When you look at athletic movement is multiplane. There's no way you can argue that, 100% multiplane. The only time it's singular plane is really the argument is when you're sprinting straight ahead, much like we saw the sprinters in the last video where they're sprinting, that's very sagittal plane. Any other sport, any other activity, you're moving in multiple planes for different segments of the body. And the movements that you have in any sport activity is a combination or culmination of that segmented movement pattern, all working in a unified and coordinated effort to make movement happen. Throw a ball, hit a ball, run, jump, throw, catch, don't care. Whatever it is, that's really what's going on here. You have this segmented component of different things that are happening in the body, component, that help move from a minute, very small amount of force production to a very large amount of force production and force application seen throughout the entire human organism. And these drills, they really set the foundation for other drills. And you'll hear me talk about transferability of skills. I'm looking for you as we go through this course to take these very basic drills that we're going to do for technique warm-up. You're going to get to do these things. You're going to do these so many times, you're going to be like in your sleep, you can do them. But I want you to be able to be an active participant, be actively involved while we do these drills, constantly work to refine the movement patterns, and then actively apply some of the things you see like in the power pivot and push, or the squish and push, or the double pivot. Be able to apply that into a drill environment and then a sport environment. So the concept is very basic, right? We're taking this very generalized running technique drill and we're trying to make it more specific, and we're trying to take very simple movement patterns, make them more complex. And throughout that process, we're taking the movement itself seen in the running technique and the ABC drills, and we're talking about the movement. We're going to introduce the timing that's proper in the movement, and then the ability to apply more power into the actual movement pattern so you can get more yield out of the ground. And that yield comes from having better timing. So you have to be able to create the power, but you have to have the timing to get the power into the ground to get the greatest yield back out. Equal and opposite reaction, right? Very Newton. So again, general to specific, simple to complex. We're talking about movement, timing, and power. If we take another look at this and we go ahead and look at it another way, the running technique drills are kind of the base of the whole pyramid, right? And then we're going to go into more general drills, more athletic drills, and then more sport-specific drills, and then drills that you do in practice, in the practice environment, whether it's on the softball field, the basketball court, I don't care, but it's still going to be practice drills, and then it becomes a game environment. Very general and simple on the bottom, and as you progress, it's more specific and complex. It can't be more complex and specific than you playing your game, you going for a cross-court shot in tennis or shooting a basketball on a basketball court. That is the most specific environment you have. So that is what we're after. Foundationally and fundamentally, this is it. We're trying to take you up this pyramid and get you ready for a game environment in this course. That is absolutely what we're after. And the technique warm-up itself is, for all practical intents and purposes, some of the most foundational and critical drills you're going to do in this course. And I said it earlier, I'm looking at the translation of the skill. You take something that's in that running technique and you shove it right up that pyramid, and you get to the point where subconsciously your body just reacts and you no longer are thinking about it. And that's a great axiom that you have in athletics. A thinking athlete is a slow athlete. I don't want you to ever have to think about a movement pattern. I want it to just happen. Well, that comes from you working on the running technique drills, then applying those drills, some component of it, into maybe like a ladder drill, very common exercise protocol for speed, agility, quickness, and then applying it on the field or in the field of play. And that is absolutely what we're looking for. So these drills, no matter what they are, they're not completely mutually exclusive from one another. They all have a certain amount of interconnectedness that allow you to be a better athlete. And that is crucial to understanding this component to being a better athlete, is that it's not just running technique makes me a better softball player, a better basketball player. No. That's part of the process. Ladder drills, same thing. cone drills, hurdle drills, same deal. It's all part of the process to go from very general and simple to specific and complex, a lot like we saw in the pyramid, a lot like we saw before. And the takeaways I want you to have with this is, as you develop and get stronger, you're going to be able to apply, or I'm sorry, create more force. I want your body to be like poppy and explosive. I don't want you slow and sluggish like the recreational runners we saw before. I want you poppy and explosive. And that doesn't happen day one, workout one, but it's a process. And you have the ability to create more force. Then you have the ability to have better refinement of applying that force into the ground. And then that allows you to have better ground reaction forces. Perfect. Love it. We've said it 100 times already, and even this presentation. There's also the component of the transferability of conditioning. The first time I ask you to do some of these drills, you are absolutely going to be winded. There is no doubt about it. And I want you to take an inventory of that, because as we go through this course, you'll be asked to repeat some of these drills a few weeks down the road. And I have no doubt that you'll be able to do these drills and not be winded. And you're like, okay, what do you got next for me? But that's part of the training effect that you'll have, and the conditioning effect that your body will respond to by placing these stressors on the human organism. And your body will adapt, and it will adapt in a positive way, and you're going to get stronger and faster from doing these drills. So part of this too is, as we go through these drills, we increase what's called the stretch reflex, where the muscles respond to a stretch reflex, and that allows you to be more explosive. The other part of this is we're talking a lot about potential to kinetic. And one thing I didn't put on here because it's kind of heavily referenced in another presentation, but it's very much like a rotational to linear. We're creating a lot of torque by running, right? Because you're moving about an axis. The levers that are the bones in your body are moving about an axis, the joint. And that creates torque. And we're trying to use that movement, the torque, and make it linear or make it vertical, make it very explosive. And that's going to be part of your learning curve, is learning how to do that. So your big takeaways with this, again, if you look back on this presentation, it's general, specific, simple to complex, and how we take you up that pyramid from what will be very simple and basic running technique drills that set the foundation for everything else. All right, guys, signing off. Have a good one.